My son's name is Liam Mateo. And I held him until he felt like 1,000,000 pounds.
Welcome to Still a Part of Us, a place where moms and dads share the story of their child who was stillborn or who died in infancy. I'm Winter.
And I'm Lee. We are grateful you joined us today. Please note that this is a story of loss and has triggers.
Thanks to our lost parents who are willing to be vulnerable and share their children with us.
If you're listening to this podcast, just know that on our YouTube channel there are pictures and videos that are related to the stories that are being shared.
Subscribe and share it with a friend that might need it, and tell them to subscribe. Why? Because people need to know that even though our babies are no longer with us, they're still a part of us.
Rob, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your son Liam with us. Thank you. I'm sure this is a bittersweet thing for you. I always enjoy talking about my own son, and it does hurt, but it also brings me joy. So I hope it is a wonderful, sweet thing for you to come and share Liam with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your wife, Jen. You could say how she says her real name. I'm not able to do it.
Sure. My name's Rob, and my wife is Genevieve. We met about 13 years ago in Las Vegas. And while we've been a number of places since then, we live there now.
And you're not a professional gambler, so no. the glitz and glamour of the Strip probably. From all my family that lives down in Vegas, they say they hardly ever go down, unless if there's like a wild buffet for really cheap or a really good concert.
Yeah, we don't find ourselves down there very much. It's been interesting that, for as much of the major events of our lives have happened here in Vegas, it's had very little to do with what Vegas is famous for.
Yes.
We met playing volleyball.
Well, high stakes volleyball, Elvis. Right? I was going to say high stakes volleyball.
We did have Elvis at our wedding, so I guess that's very Vegas.
Yeah, that is very Vegas. That is. Did he officiate the wedding, or was he just a bystander?
Yeah, he was doing the singing.
Hey, yeah. Well, that's actually really cool. Well, sweet. So you and Jen, 13 years, have been married. Some of it in Vegas, some of it elsewhere, some of it back in Vegas. And how is that? 140-degree weather during the summer, and
thankfully it's not that high yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, we've gotten used to it. Cold winters, hot summers.
Yeah, it is.
But we like it.
A very, very big shift between the hots and the colds. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sweet. Tell us what is you said you and Jen have been married for 13 years. Your son Liam, how long ago was he born?
So his birthday was April 11th. His due date was in August.
Oh.
I'm already on to the next thought.
Yeah. So maybe we should talk about more. Do you have any other children, or was Liam going to be your first child? Is your first child?
Liam is our first child.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually hadn't been thinking we were going to have any biological children.
Oh, okay.
Jen and I both still feel very strongly about foster care and about its positive effect on those children and society. And so that's still something we want to do. But we kind of just decided we wanted to try, not even for very long, but just see what happened. And
Yeah.
we were pleasantly surprised how quickly it just worked out. And so after only I think 2 or 3 months of trying, Jen was pregnant, and we were on our way.
Oh.
And it took me a little while to adjust. I think just mentally I had this one plan about
Mhm.
what raising children was going to be like.
Yeah.
And how it would start, and basically that it would be this sort of decision.
Mhm.
And I think I was sort of on this delayed response. It took a couple months before I really felt excited and like this was really happening.
Yeah. Now, were you having sort of fear, or were you just like, nah, this is not how we had planned it, but I'm okay now? Or was it like, oh my goodness, oh, what are we doing? What are we doing? We're young.
I mean, I'm a planner.
Yeah.
I think I've always had these ideas about how things were going to work out, and for the most part, I think I've been a successful planner in my life. Always making budgets, sticking to them, plotting out my career, at least since my mid-20s.
Mhm.
Had a very clear idea of what I was trying to do, and just making it happen. And so this kind of deviating from that thought of what fatherhood was going to be like, I don't think there was any real fear.
Yeah.
Um,
It just sort of, you had to plan that next step before you were okay with it.
right. And just kind of refactor, the dreams I was having, about the future. And,
Yeah.
But it wasn't long. And pretty soon, yeah, I was thinking, it'll be cool to see what that baby's going to be like,
Well, wonderful.
and know that, he would be a mix of me and Jen.
Well, wonderful. And about what time of the year did you guys conceive? Did Jen conceive?
I believe it was around November.
November. So you guys, able to announce during all the family parties and holidays that, hey, we got a little bun in the oven, and building excitement in that.
Yeah. I remember taking photos around Christmas time of those initial sonograms, and I think it was on a big Zoom call with our families that we did initially announce it.
Mm-hmm.
It being, one of those coronavirus Christmases, we didn't actually have anyone stopping by. We didn't travel anywhere, but at least we had a little bit of that, and it was fun to see their faces.
It really, the coronavirus, there was lots of bad, but sometimes it was really nice, at least for Winter and I, to sort of put a pause on all the chaos that everything brought around, and just like, hey, what is important for us. So, I hope it was good for you guys, that you didn't feel like you were being robbed from announcements and stuff like that. But yeah, it is what it is. So that was November, December. You guys announced. How was the pregnancy? Was it a pretty good first trimester? I guess.
Yeah.
Jen wasn't puking her guts out every single morning.
No, I mean, she definitely felt a number of changes. But ultimately she was feeling pretty good. She was still doing all the things she loved to do, working out and running and gardening. And so in many ways, the pregnancy was very easy on me, because she didn't need a lot of help. It was still kind of normal life for me. I guess I did feel a bit of time pressure. I knew that with a baby coming, it meant that there were going to be all these new responsibilities coming on. And I read, one dad book, which kind of prepared me for what I was going to be facing. So I was trying to get a lot done at work during that time, and just trying to get ahead of everything so that when the baby arrived, I wouldn't feel pressure to do anything except be with them.
Let's progress in the story. Come the New Year's, how was everything going? Was there any signs of good? Any signs of bad?
No, for the most part, it was just Jen would go to the scans, and when I could, I would go with her, which was probably at least half the time, if not more. But everything seemed to be progressing as expected. There were never any real scares. As first-time parents, we were nervous at times, and maybe, read into changes in behavior, timing, and, like when he was kicking and active, and debated going to the emergency room or one of those, baby scans. But for the most part, it was just smooth sailing. The whole pregnancy.
Good pregnancy. Everything going smooth sailing. Did you guys get to go to an anatomy scan? Did you guys want to figure out if Liam was a boy or a girl, or were you guys like surprised us?
No, we were happy to know early on. We weren't planning to do like a fancy gender reveal party or anything like that. We were just like, if the doctors know, just tell us. They did do an anatomy scan, but we actually found out early on through some blood tests. So we knew
probably
was
pretty
be a
early.
boy. Yeah, like what would that be, like second or third month?
I guess that just gives you a lot more time to think and dread over a name. All the names.
We had a pretty long list already. We'd been together for so long before we decided to try and have a kid that, we just playing around had been building up a name of both boy and girl names for quite a while. And Liam had long been at the top of that list. It was facing some competition at that time because over, those 10 years, the name had started becoming more and more popular. And so we were not entirely sure we would use it.
Well, it's a strong name, so
yeah. And I like alliteration, so makes him sound like a superhero's secret identity.
Yeah. Wow. Now, Mateo, where did that come from? Is that also one of those It was in the punch bowl of names that you guys loved, or
Yeah, it was actually number 2
Hey.
at,
Well,
at the end, and
that's a good way to do it. 1 and 2.
yeah, since unfortunately, it all ended too early.
Mhm.
It was just one of those things. We hadn't quite nailed it down.
Oh,
We hadn't said for sure it's going to be Liam, or with Mateo, which had been gaining steam. We weren't sure, and
yeah.
so when in the hospital, the nurse asked me for a name to put it on his uh,
Certain.
his hospital tag.
Yeah.
I looked at Jen, and she just kind of nodded, which I took to mean that I was supposed to make a decision there. And, um, you know, it was kind of an overwhelming moment.
Yeah.
And so I just decided we're going to give him our 2 favorites. We're going to blow the best ones on him.
Well, they're good names. They're good names. So let's start talking about the lead up to his birth. Everything from what you were saying, everything was going well. Then what happened? When did it start going bad?
Well, it was really fast. It was really, we didn't realize it, but it started maybe a day and a half
Mm-hmm.
before um, April 11th, and Jen started noticing more false labor pains,
Mm-hmm.
and we started tracking them. It's actually still in my phone. I was looking at it the other day, and they were she felt quite a few of them, but they were so random.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
time between them and the time that they lasted were unpredictable, and so we just, based on what we could find out, we didn't think it was a cause for concern. She just rested more, um, and the night of the 10th, she went to bed early,
Yeah.
but for the most part, we still thought we were on easy street.
Yeah.
Everything seemed to be fine, and it was the right time for this sort of stuff, so we just went with it.
What part of the pregnancy was this starting to be um like week
um
20 something or
so yeah, it was at about 25, 26 weeks.
25, 26 weeks? So still pretty early, but and then
Yeah. But I had read that the Braxton Hicks could start as early as 21
yeah.
weeks, and
Yeah.
so mostly we were just trying to make sure she was hydrated and resting. You know that night, she woke up after midnight. I think it was probably about 1 or 2 a.m.
Mhm.
and she was feeling real contractions at that point. And I started stirring when I felt her get out of bed. But once it was clear that she was, really struggling with them, I
Yeah.
sat up, I became alert. Um, I think I went to her side of the bed, and, she decided to get up and go to the bathroom and see how she felt. And so, I obviously was feeling really nervous
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I don't know if she said anything in particular, um, but no matter what, I could tell that she was worried.
Yeah.
Um, and so naturally that made me feel worried as well. So she went into the bathroom. I'm not entirely sure how much time passed, but she opened the door and told me that her water had broke.
Oh.
And I think I may have reacted with some disbelief, because obviously I didn't want to believe that was happening. I knew it was too soon, and immediately my mind raced to all the bad potential outcomes.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm the planner, and I'm already going through the possible permutations of our life and what that could mean. But I tried to. She told me we needed to go to the hospital, and so I made sure that's what we were moving towards. So I tried to delay the freak out, tried to, put those thoughts to the back of my mind and stick to the action as much as I could. We were fortunate to be very close to the hospital. So we didn't call an ambulance or anything like that. We just grabbed whatever was close by that we thought might be useful. I think like a bottle of water and, some jackets and things, but, pretty much just threw on whatever was at hand, got in the car and drove the block and a half to the hospital. And I wasn't really sure what to do. So I dropped her off right at the front door, and there were a couple of police officers there. They didn't move to help, but she was still somewhat mobile, and I think she told me to go to
park the car.
Park the car, which I just did in the nearest available spot. It may have been doctor or handicap parking, whatever it was.
At that time, it doesn't matter.
Stuck it there and ran in. And when I got inside, a nurse had her in a wheelchair. And, Jen was clearly upset. And was telling me that, they're not moving fast enough. They're not hurrying. And, that of course worried me. She wasn't out there alone, but I guess in my mind, I was thinking that I'd run in there and she'd already be in the back somewhere, and I'd have to be asking, where's my wife and child,
This is the most important thing in your life at the moment. And why isn't it everybody else's importance as well?
Right. And by the time I did get in there wasn't any point in, trying to get somebody, because they did come out pretty much right away. But for a second there, it was a very panicky moment. But they did get Jen back into triage. They asked her to start filling out some paperwork, which, she was in no condition to do. So I took it and did my best with the paperwork. And, during that time, we were separated for a little bit, which was nerve-wracking in its own way. But I don't know how much time passed, but I got back there as quickly as I could. And they had already given her some drugs to try and halt the pregnancy. And, they were kind of going over the game plan, telling us first they were going to try and stop it. And if they couldn't do that, then they would move to try and deliver him. It was a source of some guilt to me that, I just immediately thought, like, what do either of those options really mean?
Yeah.
Does stopping it mean that my wife has to be in a hospital for 3 months? And, could that bankrupt us? And then very quickly feeling angry at myself that I was even considering whether or not that mattered.
Yeah.
Because, I would have spent every last dime to save him. But I also worried about, if these complications meant that life would be significantly more difficult.
Yeah.
And, again, that was just, guilt racking. But, I focused on what we were trying to do and kind of just moved through the steps of being like, okay, what is our best option to, keep Jen safe, to keep Liam safe? What outcome, results in them both still being here?
Yeah.
They were unsuccessful at stopping the labor. It just kept progressing from there. I remember being able to see his heartbeat on the monitor, but it was getting weaker, and so they moved Jen into the operating room, and they left me in that triage room for a little while. I'm not entirely sure why they said I couldn't go. Just something about preparing the room, and they actually they asked me to get scrubbed up for entering the OR. So just to reduce the contamination risk.
Yeah, you got to put on all the hair nets and the gowns and everything. So
yeah. So for a little while, I was alone again, and someone came to bring me the scrubs. But while I was waiting, I did take the time to call my two closest friends.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I actually think I sent them text messages because it was 2 a.m., 3 a.m., somewhere in there. And I didn't need them to come. I just more needed them to know what was going on, because
to share in your pain, to share in your worry. Not necessarily to interact with you, but just it's good to share with. I understand.
An element of it was definitely the support. I think another element of it was that they're the kind of guys who, I trust to just handle it. And so, if something came up, they would know I was incapacitated and wouldn't even have to be asked to just, take it on, whatever it is.
Yeah.
They would just handle it for me. And I'm very fortunate to have a couple of friends I can trust like that. So I did take the time to do that. And it actually wasn't long before one of them responded and, was just like, what do you need? And, I told them nothing yet, but this is going to be days, if not weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So just letting you know, what's going on, because I think we're going to need a lot of things soon. Someone finally came to get me, which I was grateful for, because I was definitely getting inside my own head, being alone in that room, and just feeling helpless.
Yeah.
And not even being able to be a comfort to Jen was difficult. So when they came to get me, I was very glad to be able to at least be next to her, to hold her hand, to try and be a source of strength. But it was just such an impossible situation. And once we were in that operating room, Jen was already on the table. They'd already put up the curtain.
Yeah.
And they hadn't quite started the surgery. I think there was a missing member from the NICU team, but it was pretty crowded in there. I remember that there were just a lot of people and a lot of noise. I remember looking at Jen and her kind of moving her eyes down towards the curtain, just sort of reminding me to, focus on Liam, to be her eyes, to be watching out for him, to make sure that they were doing everything they could to try and save him. I remember hearing them saying things about his status. Once they'd pulled him out, I saw his foot. I saw them take him over to a different table while the doctors nearest Jen started closing her up. There was another team of doctors, I assume, attempting to revive Liam. At that point, I mean, we had our fears, but we didn't know anything about whether or not he was alive. With each passing minute, it just felt more and more hopeless. One of the NICU doctors finally said 30 minutes, no heartbeat. That's when I knew, and I looked at Jen, and I just started crying. I don't think I had to tell her anything. She just knew it too. And I don't remember when, but that's when the nurse came by. It was maybe before or after, and asked me his name, and I told her it was Liam Mateo. They asked us if we wanted them to keep trying, and we said no. We just wanted them to give him back to us. And when they did, when the room cleared and we were able to get out of that horrible place and into another room, being able to see my son there, right there in front of me, it was a floodgate of just love and attachment. And I'd heard that for a lot of first time fathers, that 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 connection with the child, sometimes it's not real until the birth.
Mhm.
And maybe it was a little bit of that for me, because it was just night and day. It's like I remember feeling happy and excited before, and feeling love for my son when I would see Jen's face
Mhm.
when he was kicking, um, and just that glow she had. But yeah, when he was finally there with us, and I could hold him and see his face, it was just, it was a whole new world, a whole different understanding of feeling and emotion. and it sucked that it was so dark, um, and so sad at the same time. But I felt it. I felt that connection, and I don't remember a lot of the details.
Mhm.
Jen sometimes tells me things that happened in the hospital, and I almost, you know, I believe they happened, and I almost just don't remember them, because I was so I was so focused on him. And I think part of that is because that was really my time with him. It was so compressed, and
Yeah.
it was so all of a sudden
Yeah.
that, you know she got months of experiencing him that I got too, but in a different way.
Yeah.
And so, I was just trying to be present with him, to memorize how he felt in my arms. Like I said, I I held him until his, well, couple of pounds felt like just an infinite weight, and just tried to memorize that feeling of holding him, because I knew that my memory would fade, and I wanted it to take as long as possible, before I would forget those feelings.
It's
Uh,
trying to build a lifetime of a relationship and a lifetime of memories in such a brief moment of life is so. Yeah, when you're talking about you don't remember some stuff in the hospital, it's what truly is important is you and your son and your wife, and that's all that you could focus on.
yeah, and when Jen would say something, I would, try and be the best comfort I could.
Hmm.
I don't remember all the things I said, but I remember repeating to her a lot that, I don't think that he suffered. That I think his whole life was just being warm and living with her. That it was a short life, but a good one. and and I think I do believe that. I think that's true, and I hope it helped her. Um, but it didn't make the situation
No,
anything other than what it was, which was just hard.
a sad,
Um,
hard situation. Yeah.
and they eventually moved us and took us from the level where they had the operating rooms to sort of a longer term stay area of the hospital. And I can remember they were wheeling Jen in her bed, and she wanted me to stay with Liam, and I wanted to stay with Liam. I don't think she would have had to ask me, but we're moving him in this, wheeled crib, and he's there ensconced in a number of blankets, and I could see his face, but he was kind of hidden in there. But we were wheeling him through the hospital, and I just remember people seeing Jen and seeing the little crib and thinking, I imagine thinking, there's a baby in there, and people would look at me wheeling him, and I was just, I don't know, almost like forcing people's eyes away. Like, I didn't want to share him. I don't know what that was really about. Just something I remember, just a difficult thing that's stuck in my brain, just feeling sad and angry and wanting to protect my son.
Yeah.
But when they moved us to the other room, we only had a few more hours left with him. So we'd been up all night, but we stayed up to spend what time we could with him. I remember trying to sing to him, which sort of worked. I couldn't get any words out, and I couldn't even sing this lullaby that I'd been practicing actually for a few months. Jen wanted to have some special lullabies for him, and so we picked out a few songs that we thought were kind of neat and functioned well as a lullaby.
That's sweet.
Well, none of those came to mind. Another one that was actually quite fitting came to mind, which, well, it's a very bittersweet song. And again, I couldn't get out the words, but I did get out the melody. And so I hummed to him for a while. And to this day, it's been a year later, and I still can't sing that song. But one therapist we've talked to did recommend that I keep trying to sing it to him. And so I do every now and then. And I think someday I'll get there. But that was the rest of our time with him, was holding him, trying to sing to him, memorizing his face and his smell.
A whole lifetime of love condensed in that short period of time.
Yeah. The last thing was that when the funeral home finally came to collect him, and I held Jen while they were um, putting him away. Neither one of us could watch, but as they were leaving with him, I knew that he was there, that he was still in sight, and we're there in that hospital, and the only thing I could think to do was just shout after him to say goodbye one more time and just tell him how much I loved him. And I'm glad I did. It would have never been enough time. It's just impossible for there to be enough time in those situations. But yeah, I'm glad I tried to soak up every last second. And then it was just me and Jen.
Now, Jen had a C-section, so she had to recover from the surgery. How long were you guys in the hospital in recovery after Liam's birth?
She says it was less than 24 hours, but I seem to think it was more than that, but it's hard to say because we slept during the day.
Yeah.
And then I think woke up again at night, and then may have been discharged at some point during the next day. But I don't remember exactly when that would have been. But we definitely we pushed it.
Yeah. Well, and it's never easy to be in the hospital to recover, and especially after having to give birth to your beautiful son Liam, and having to be in there in a constant reminder that you don't have him there with you. It's never a good place. So
yeah, I mean we didn't have far to go to get home, and we just wanted to be there. So the second the doctors were sure there weren't any likely complications from the C-section, we headed out, but they had a checklist for us. She had to walk some distance unassisted. I don't remember the rest of the list, but there were 4 or 5 things on there, and we just kept getting her up to walk around as much as she was feeling able. And I think we may have talked to at least a couple of coworkers by that point, so that people knew we weren't coming in. But yeah, we just wanted to be in our own place at that point.
Yeah. And so when you're discharged and you go home, what happens? Do you guys just crash? And
yeah, I mean, when we knew we were going home, I actually remember talking to one of my friends that I had messaged earlier, and they actually asked me if I wanted them to go to the house and maybe move some of the baby stuff so that it wouldn't be in our room. And I thought about that a little bit, and eventually said no, while it was nice of them to think of us and ask. I felt the absence of that stuff would be felt just as hard as seeing the crib and the rocking chair and all the other little changes we'd made to our room to get ready for Liam, there was no making it better.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we got home and everything was as it was, except the life had just been sucked out of the place.
Yeah.
You know, I really tried to focus on Jen. As dark as it was for me, you know, I just felt that no matter what, it had to be worse for her. And so, you know, I wanted to be the number one support for
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
And I think it also gave me something to focus on. But in the hospital, I had actually made Liam a promise that I was going to watch out for his mom, that I was going to try and be that rock. And I don't know what made me do that at the time, but I think it was helpful.
Yeah.
I think making that promise gave me strength, that I somehow drew strength from Liam into his memory to have said, I'm going to do this thing.
Yeah.
And over the weeks and months thereafter, you know, it was hard, but I felt like I was doing it for him.
Yeah.
If I couldn't give him that love, I could try and show that love through supporting Jen.
Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about. You said that the funeral home came to the hospital and picked up Liam. When you guys got home, did you have to plan a funeral, or were you? What was that process for you? 24 hours after the hospital, you're back home. Were you guys going to go through a cremation, or were you going to bury?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. I don't remember if there was a debate
mm-hmm.
about it, but you know, I think we wanted a cremation because we had planned that we would someday be cremated,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we wanted him with us.
Yeah.
um and so it was really more about trying to get that done quickly,
Mm-hmm.
because you know we didn't want to be without him.
Yeah. Yeah.
um it felt like a necessary piece of closure. Being separated from him, it felt like this tragedy was still ongoing,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't happen nearly as fast as we
You
would
want
have
to, yeah.
liked. But you know, Jen was on the hospital and the funeral home pretty much every day, uh, to get that moved forward. And you know, I tried to deal with the house stuff and the day-to-day stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We were fortunate that her parents were able to come out, and so that gave us another element of support.
Yeah.
You know, and the friends we have in town were all great, and we're thankful. Uh, but yeah, I mean, nothing about that situation really
No. Yeah.
changes because of that. It makes the aftermath more possible. But you know, we did get to see him 2 more times
Mm-hmm.
at the funeral home. Once because there was a bit of a mix-up,
Ooh.
which may or may not have actually been a problem, but they brought us the wrong paperwork at first,
Oh.
because there was another family with the same name there, and so we asked to see him to make sure that there were no problems, which was good because his grandmother then also got to
Mm,
see his face.
That's very nice for her too.
And then again, because we wanted to give him something that would be his.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have that opportunity at the
Yeah.
hospital, or at the very least, we didn't think of it in time. And plus, then I would have had to run home and didn't want to lose any time with him.
Mm-hmm. And what was that? What was the little thing that you?
It was a blue swaddle and hat, and it just, we wanted to dress him and to give him something.
Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful present from his parents.
Thank you.
Now, Rob, you're coming upon his first birthday. How has this year been? I'm sure there's ups and downs, there's goods and bads, but are you starting to? One of our counseling sessions, one of the counselors asked us, "How do you parent your child?" And it never occurred to me as a father of a stillborn son, how do I parent my son? And I think, talking with other parents about our children is one way that I parent my son, how I'm able to talk with him, how I'm able to talk about him. What are some things that you have done in this last year that has helped you in your relationship with your son, Liam? Of course, there's good and there's bad. There's ups and downs, but
so his birthday actually just passed.
I'm sorry.
On the 11th, and we have continued to parent him through some legacy projects we've tried to do in his name.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the thing that has most helped us celebrate his memory was that we asked our parents and some of our close relatives and friends to write us, or rather to write Liam a letter. And, to say in there, what he meant and what he would have meant to them. We told everyone, to take their time and to send it to us, and that when they were able, and that we would open them on his first birthday. And I was really impressed by how heartfelt those messages were. That, many of them are parents themselves, but just how much Liam meant to them it filled my heart with joy to hear those words. And it made me all the sadder that he isn't still here with us. But I was really glad to be able to read him those letters from his grandparents, and from aunts and uncles that he would have gotten to know, and to get that response when so few people actually got to see Jen pregnant. And, we spent so much of that year apart from people due to the pandemic that, to get that connection with others to our son was really, really meaningful to me. And I'm pretty sure it was Jen's idea, but it was a fantastic idea. And while nothing makes this better, I felt that love for my son, and it made me feel less alone in the ways that I need to express love for him. And we've talked about these legacy projects. Every month on the 11th, we do something in his name. We either volunteer our time, or we make a donation, or like on his birthday, we just set aside some time to remember him. But one thing we definitely are doing is donating one of those cuddle cots to the hospital we were at, because they don't have one. And as I was saying, there's never enough time. No amount of time would be enough. And, we want other lost parents to be able to have more time if that's possible. And so, that's one of the things we've been working towards.
So it's a wonderful gift and a wonderful gesture, building a legacy for your son.
Another is with my work. I come across a lot of broken down computers, and so we fixed a number of those up to put in a computer lab. And so Liam's lab is going to be a small, like 10 machine computer lab at a homeless services facility downtown here in Las Vegas. And so they've been kind enough to give us some space where we can put these machines, and let us name the space, obviously. And so it's nice to know that, his name will be out there somewhere for the future. And along with generous donation from one of our friends, we're also helping to do a small children's garden. Along with it, in transitional housing. And these sort of combine our love for our son and Jen's long history of work in the community here.
Well, the love of your son is very apparent, and you spreading that love in the world is just a wonderful thing for you and Jen, in the name of Liam.
Yeah, I think we just want to find ways for him to continue to be a part of our lives. And So, having some computers that I'm going to try and keep running for as long as we live in the area, is a way for me to have something that's a part of him.
Yeah.
I think I probably do have one last thought.
You betcha.
For me, a big part of this story is just how much, I didn't get to form a connection to Liam before his birth
Mhm.
in the same way that Jen got to,
Yeah.
because, she carried him and
Yep.
felt him,
It's
and
very
I had
different for a
my
mother.
hopes and dreams for him.
Mhm.
Um, but for a lot of fathers, this story of connecting with their children is a thing that happens after birth,
Mhm.
and this sense of grief is so strong because there's a struggle, I think, for a lot of lost dads that are potentially our strongest connection with our children is this sense of grief,
Mhm.
because it's how we're experiencing our love for them.
Yeah.
And while it's great to channel that feeling into these legacy projects and the like, and it does help me, I still think that the most important thing to do is to be present in that time that you have with your child, because in the end, that's what I hold on to.
Mhm.
That's the piece that I think will remain with me forever, is the feeling of my son in my arms, looking at his face and feeling his weight and the warmth of him, because I love him very deeply, even though he was gone by the time I got to meet him.
Well, Rob, thank you so much. It has been my pleasure to speak with you about your son, Liam. Thank you so much for sharing him.
Thank you. It's uh, it's good to put his name and his memory out there, because he's very real to me.